Hey everybody! Today we're going to talk about good news about Alzheimer and cognitive decline, promising holistic techniques and new research on the area. Then if you have any symptoms of cognitive decline or Alzheimer, or if you know someone on your family, your friend, or anyone that you love, they're starting to developing some symptoms or they already have the symptoms and you want to learn more about that, this is the place to be. Then make sure that you listen to us all the way to the end because we're going to be sharing a lot of different tips and techniques that you can start applying today to improve your health. Welcome to Be Healthy Podcast, the best way to discover practical tips and holistic health information from amazing wellness expert and to inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Hi, I'm Ana Marino. I'm a self-healing specialist, a physical therapist, a best-selling author, and a public speaker. I heal myself before, and I know you have the power to heal yourself too. And today we will be talking with Robyn Albaum. Robyn is a certified ReCODE Health Coach, and she has a lot of personal experience with that topic as well. I can't wait to introduce her to you guys. Then get your pen and your paper and get ready to take some really good notes. Hi, Robyn. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about your story and your experience all those years working with those problems?
Oh, absolutely. So, this is a family problem for me, like it is for many, many people. And my mother, may she rest in peace, had Alzheimer's and passed in 2013. So I walked the journey with her for 9 years. And this really taught me a lot. So I was able to recognize when things were kind of not quite right. And for those of you out there that want to understand that a little bit better, kind of, maybe misplacing things a little bit more often than usual, maybe repeating yourself or themselves, forgetting things that they shouldn't really forget. So that's kind of simple, things to be looking out for. And it's very much, more about recent memories. So they forget the recent stuff. They might remember things from 10, 20 years ago very easily, but the recent memories are what's the short-term recall is difficult.
Yeah. And before we get to the signs and symptoms and red flags, because I know a lot of people are waiting for that part, I would like to learn more about like what was your journey? What happened that got you here?
Yep.
Yes, I know you had the experience with your mom, and it's such a beautiful story, like how much you did for her and how much you learned from the experience. And share with us a little bit more about that journey and even for other people to know
Sure.
like why is that so important, why are you so passionate about this
Yeah,
topic?
of course, of course. So when she first got diagnosed, she was about 76 at the time. And it was, sorry for the little noises here. I have a puppy. So yeah, she got diagnosed, and I kind of worked through this as her caregiver, and then I managed caregivers. That happens a lot. You have symptoms start to get a little bit worse, and so we were handling this very conventionally at the time. Went to a neurologist, as most of you do or will do or have done, and you get this diagnosis, and they tell you, well, all we can do is prescribe a medication, which isn't all that effective, unfortunately. Um, but that was what we knew at the time. I might have to pick him up and put him on my lap. So yeah, that's what you're told. And then I did holistic things at the time also that were helpful. I gave her a little bit of MCT oil and things like that. So and kept her active, right? Everybody should remain really active. If you've got a loved one, you really just exercise and really getting stimulation to the brain and staying engaged in life. So that's, and I'm passionate because now we have something we can do about it. Originally, and most people are told there's nothing you can do, just forget about life. Here's my keys. I can't drive anymore, whatever is being told. And it's really devastating. And I'm really compassionate because I understand what that feels like for people. So, but I have good news, right? Now we're like on the other side of this, where there is a way, there is a solution to working through those symptoms and slowing them down, getting to them very quickly. And in many cases, we have been able to prove that it is reversible and preventable.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. That is definitely good news, because I have a lot of people that I know, they either have a loved one or then the self start to questioning, then definitely
Right.
a piece of good news on all that's happening on this planet.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, finally. I mean, this is, it's a long time coming.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about your expertise. And you went and did as a health coach. You had a little extra steps
I
to
did.
here. Then tell us a bit more about that.
I did. So I arrived at the field of health coaching in 2009, got my certification a long time before people really knew what health coaching even was.
Mhm.
And, that was great. And that was really because of my own health journey brought me there, which I think that happens a lot to us, right, Anna?
Absolutely.
End up in a field. Yeah, so we did that. I did that, and now, all these years later, it was like exciting to hear that Dr. Bredesen actually had developed something called the ReCODE protocol, which stands for Reversing Cognitive Decline. And that was as early as 2018 when that became available. And in 2019, I did the training, so got excited, and I've been doing this ever since. I think I should pick him up. Do you think I should pick him up? Puppy's making noises.
Whatever you decide.
Puppy, right? Do you guys have puppies or dogs at home?
Exactly. I feel like after the pandemic, everybody knows what's having dogs
I
around.
know. I'm going to let him walk around. Hang on.
All right. Then tell us more about how does people usually start to identify either yourself or your loved one? What are usually the signals, the red flags that people need to be aware of?
Yeah, kind of like what I mentioned in the beginning, but it can be different for each person. So you might notice that your loved one is a little bit more confused. Things maybe that they should know, like they have an appointment coming up and they just don't recall the appointment, or if they know that there's an appointment, they don't know the doctor it's with. Something like that could show up. They might have trouble adding, calculations. Maybe normally they would do a tip if you're out to dinner with them, and all of a sudden they can't come up with 10 or 15%. Normally they would have no trouble with something like that. And then again, just short-term loss, right? Short-term memory loss. Once in a while, Anna, we all have that, right? I mean, you maybe didn't get enough sleep the night before, you're stressed, a lot of things happening. So that can be kind of normal. But when it's more consistent, if you're seeing this happening more and more over time, and you're like, that's not like mom, or that's not like dad, or your aunt, uncle, grandpa, whoever, or your wife or husband, it's time to act, and it's important to really act on that quickly. But those are kind of the red flags that this is something a little bit more, and not waiting is really important.
Really important.
Very important.
Yeah, I think with cognitive decline, time is crucial, and I think that's a really important piece to highlight there. If you're not sure, go get checked.
Yes.
If you're not 100% sure, just go get checked, talk to a professional, talk to someone like Robyn, go talk to your neurologist, go talk to someone that's a professional in the area to have that clarity, because I feel like it's similar to chronic pain with the population that I work with, like either physical or emotional. People usually start having the symptoms and they kind of like dismiss it. They don't look, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then like 3 months down the road, it's not getting better. Guess what? It's not going to get better. Then
this is true.
Especially if you get to that 3 months mark, when it becomes acute to chronic, that's really, really crucial for us to act as soon as possible, because the sooner we start addressing that, the faster results we're going to have, versus if we wait too long, it's going to be a lot harder to treat it. Just like anything
else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Then, and it's similar, like what you're saying, as far as the difference between what is the line between it's a problem and it's just an everyday life, right? It's kind of like, again, if we're looking at a back pain or a neck, and you woke up and you're like, oh, my neck is a little stiff, and the next day is gone. You don't have to worry about it. We all had that. That's normal.
Sure.
Right? Like you carry something and you're like, oh, I've been standing for too long. I've been doing gardening. I hear my husband say that sometimes. I've been doing gardening for like 6 hours and I walk home and it's like everything is stiff. But those are the things that are more normal. And then you're
Sure.
like, okay, we can all forget things once in a while. Things
Oh
like
yeah,
that happen.
your
But
busy lives, right?
exactly. But when it starts becoming like an everyday, a consistency, like a repetition of the problem, I
Correct.
think that's the red flag. I mean, like, okay, let's really pay attention to it.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up something that's kind of important, Anna. You mentioned about going to get checked. So there's like a double-edged sword about doing that, and I just want to make sure that people are aware. If you decide to go get checked and you go to your primary care or you go to a neurologist, some people have to go to your primary first, then to get referral. This will be on your health record. If this is mentioned on your health record in the United States, it may preclude you, mean prevent you from being able to get long-term care insurance in the future. So,
Oh, wow.
yes, and this is a kind of a big deal. So, it's kind of like depending on your relationship with your primary care. If you say, "Listen, I just want to talk to you about this. Let me just get your opinion, but I really am not comfortable with this being part of my record." If they're willing to do that, some might say, "Okay, let's just have a chat." But if not, going through the protocol at least will kind of protect that because these things don't get released into a public health record.
That's a really good point, and it's very unfortunate that we have to
I
even
know.
consider and deal with those kind of limitations of healthcare.
Absolutely.
And then what you're saying is, if you absolutely go talk to your primary care no matter what, and just know that that is a gray zone there. And we can also use the ReCODE protocol, that's the protocol that you're referring to, is as a way to be even preventive. If you're starting to have the symptoms, you're starting to get concerned, talk to someone that it's being certified by the protocol. It will also help you to start to be even preventive care in that direction, that you can start getting better for your health, improve your health as well. Then that's a good point there.
Yes, absolutely. But at least they have a choice. We have a choice.
Absolutely. I think everything is about the awareness of being conscious of all the details, right? And then
Yeah,
with awareness,
yeah,
it comes
that's right.
choice. With
That's right.
awareness comes consciousness.
Yeah.
Then that's really important for us to have as well. Okay, good. Then we cover all the symptoms. Hopefully by now you guys are like, okay, I understand. Yes, I have it. Or now I'm going to a birthday party or the holidays coming up, and you start to realize like, Uncle George is really having a hard time. I noticed that. And even sometimes bringing to the family attention, I think that's another piece as well when you think about the symptoms, because one thing I noticed with decline, autoimmune or cognitive decline, sometimes when you're with the person every day, you may
Yeah.
not noticing as much
Very true.
versus like if you see the person every 6 months and you're like,
Yes.
wow, that person looks so different. And then
Yes.
maybe if you go talk to their spouse, it's like, did you notice this, this, and this, and this?
Not
And
really.
yeah, absolutely. Then that can be like the
Yeah.
best gift that you can have to give it to someone. It's having those open conversations, and it can be like, no, the person's fine, they just didn't sleep well, or they're having a rough time right now. And then you clear all those
Yes.
confusions. I
Yes.
think the awareness of someone from outside, it can
Yeah, you're right.
be
You're
really
right.
helpful.
That's very true. Very excellent point. No matter what the occasion is, and like you said, if you travel to visit family, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, something's really different. And like you said, the people closest to you, it's so subtle. Sometimes you're like, oh, they always forget stuff. It's just happening more often now. And yeah, so definitely keep your antenna up and just be with express yourself and your points with love, right? This is a family member, someone you care about. You have to be real gentle about how you bring up these subjects. Yeah. So, and I think now, if you're looking to bring it up and you want to say something, one way.
It goes the dog saying hello.
Yeah. Oh goodness. He's looking at me. Wants those biscuits. Wants those biscuits. Oh. So anyway, goodness.
Yeah, those are really good points. And just making the bridge with like, okay, now we identify, we notice there is a problem. What can we do about it? Now let's talk more about the solutions, the new research. Can you
Yeah.
share more about that with us?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's so exciting. So this, by the way, is nothing new in terms of functional medicine. Functional medicine, people may not know what that means. That's just looking at the root cause of any chronic disease, right? So functional medicine is not anything weird or quirky. It's been around and identified since the mid-90s. So these are mostly medical doctors and professionals who've taken extra training to learn new ways to test, new ways to assess people, looking for why. Why does somebody have cognitive decline? It's not just genetic, right? So there's this lot of talk about the gene. Oh, do I have the gene? Oh my gosh, I'm worried. I don't know if I should test. Should I test? What if I have this gene? And they hang every worry on the gene. I will tell you this. I have had people who are average risk and who've had severe symptoms in their 50s and 60s, very average risk. And we've had more the highest risk, APOE 4/4s, who don't show anything until like their early or mid to late 70s, and sometimes even later than that. So, that's important to recognize also.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Robyn, when you're talking about the high risk and lower risk, you're talking about the gene's risk.
The gene itself.
The gene itself, they have a higher risk. And that's, exactly. I think with epigenetic now, it's such an important component for all of us. We can't blame our parents for everything anymore, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is where the exciting piece comes in, right? Yeah. So once we say, okay, what do we do, right? And Dr. Bredesen, who created the ReCODE protocol, this has been over research of 30 years, Anna. This is not, again, it's not new, right? It took a long time to figure this out. And the passion behind it is so big for him and for all of us who are involved, because we're like seeing it work, right? We are finally seeing things happen, and it's thrilling. It's really thrilling. So what does this mean? And how did we get there, right? So he's done plenty of research before this, and now there's 2 clinical trials that have been published and a third that's underway. And the first one was actually, there's been more than that. There's been a study. There's a study of 100 patients, and that came out, I believe, I want to say that's 2018. And even right here in North Carolina, there was actually a group that participated and had some subjects, and they were clearly able to see looking at benchmarks, right, with cognitive performance testing, real testing, to show, yes, this person came in with what's called a MoCA score, which is a Montreal Cognitive Assessment test, very, very commonly done by neurologists and even primary care to see where people stand, where their scores were not so great. And then when they finished the protocol, they improved. So this was very, nice to see this. There's 100 patients. Then there was one that came out, it was much bigger, and that was in 2022. Published by Dr. Dale Bredesen and his team. That was so exciting to see. The improvement was 84%. Okay. Now, 84% is incredibly high for any kind of study, clinical trial. It's high. So we were talking, let me explain who we're talking about as a population who was used. And that is what's called MCI. Okay. So that's mild cognitive impairment. So the stages, Anna, and all of you listening, is usually it starts with SCI, subjective cognitive impairment. It's very mild, not really that noticeable, which is where probably a lot of people stay for a long time before it progresses into what's called MCI. And then that's a period of time, and that can vary person to person, can be shorter for some, longer for others. And then eventually, many of those people, a majority, will convert into Alzheimer's. Now, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. It's
Mm-hmm.
the most common type. People don't understand the terms dementia versus Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. You've heard of Lewy body, frontal temporal disease, and so on. So it's one of, and it's the most common. So this is kind of what we're looking at with these people was the MCI group, and they did really well. So it was great. And then the last one was done by Dr. Heather Sanderson in California. She's a naturopath. And her findings were excellent as well. 75% with an older population. Okay. So now we're talking really moderate, pretty moderate advanced Alzheimer's at this point. Their MoCA scores were, I think, anywhere from like 17 to maybe 20 or 21, 22. So this is enough to say, okay, there's some impairment going on. And it's fascinating that she got, 75%. Like,
Wow.
amazing. It's amazing. So, we're thrilled with that. And then Dr. Bredeson's working on a third, which hopefully sometime maybe next year, he should be ready to release the study there.
Wow, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. And I think as a researcher myself, I think it's wonderful that we are seeing the result, and it's even more wonderful that we actually are documenting, we have proof
Oh, yes.
being
Oh, yes.
published. It's not just something that we think and that we wish, that we want. Now we are documenting, we are seeing the results, it's being published, it's being validated, and that is such important piece. It feels like a really shift in the journey of cognitive decline.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
Shift everything.
never been really done before, because the tougher thing for Dr. Bredesen and the protocol in general is, how do you really analyze multifactorial inputs into the problem, and how do you, when you turn those around, when you turn around the lifestyle factors, it's tough to actually test lifestyle factors. Yeah. So and one compounds and helps the other. So that's hard too from a research standpoint. Yes. It's not like a lab mouse where you give them a drug and it's like, okay, the mouse is finding their way through the maze, and okay, this one's still not finding their way through the maze. Poor thing. Like, you know what I mean? So that's very defined and clear. Whereas lifestyle factors take a whole new twist with how he has to conduct his research and do all that.
Absolutely. I am very impressed about what he's doing, because I done multiple research. I published multiple researches myself. That I know the challenges of that. And it's usually we are looking for something black and white. It's like it's either on or it's off, right? And
all or nothing.
And when we're looking for that functional medicine, when we're looking for the cause, it's very hard to find a switch that's on and off. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaway all the listeners can take today home. It's making sure that if you are dealing with cognitive decline, chronic pain, autoimmune disease, like anything that's looking more systemic, it's very rare that it's going to be just one switch and it's going to solve all the problems. It's important to go back to the cause. We needed to look at the cause, and each person has a different cause.
Absolutely. I'm glad you kind of position it this way, or describe it this way, because it's so true. And I will tell you that not every person who is diagnosed with cognitive decline, which is a generic statement, whether it's, subjective cognitive impairment, MCI, or Alzheimer's, or another type of dementia, presents the same way. My mother, thankfully, did not have belligerence and moodiness and, all those types of things that many people can experience, which she did not, right? So, there's even schizophrenia can kind of sneak in there sometimes. My aunt had that, but not everybody does. So, that's why yet they both had Alzheimer's. So that's why when you really think about it, why would one drug be effective at treating all these kind of characteristic symptoms for one versus another person? It just doesn't match. It can't work that way. And this protocol does not disapprove of medication. But it's like, if you're already taking something, right? Aricept, which is the Donepezil, Namenda, things like that, particularly early prescribed drugs. They say, don't rock the boat, stick with what you're doing, get it. And if you choose to go the route of the ReCODE protocol and also enhance all these reasons why, and I'll explain what they are in a minute, then you have a better chance and a good shot, right, of seeing some reversal happen potentially if you execute, right? You got to execute, you got to have the right doctors in place, and a lot of things have to be aligned, but we are seeing that. So yeah, that's really important. So Anna, if it's okay, I'll kind of explain what the science has shown with Dr. Bredesen and what he discovered. And again, this took over 30 years. He went to Duke for his medical training, and served in the board of neurology over at University of California, San Francisco. And he's got accolades behind his name. This is a very, very well-respected neurodegenerative researcher and physician. Mm-hmm. So number one is we call them subtypes, okay, which are contributors. Okay, so what's contributing to these symptoms? Where do they come from? They don't come from thin air. So the first one is inflammation, right? And it can be silent inflammation. You don't even know you have it. Or you could be walking around with pain like Anna's, works with, right, with her patients, and say, I have terrible knee pain. And besides being localized, it might be elsewhere, right? So there are certain variables and tests that we look at to see what they are. Very important because it could be silent. Type 1.5 is called glycotoxicity. Now, you might be like, is that sugar related? Yes. So you could be insulin resistant, right? Not utilizing, your body's just not utilizing insulin correctly anymore, pre-diabetic or diabetic. So these things all impact the brain's ability to utilize blood sugar, because glucose is its first choice for energy. In the protocol, we recognize that that's an issue. So usually we try to go ketogenic. So ketogenic diets can be helpful for many. I can't give medical advice here. But that is typically what we like to, start people with if their functional MD approves of that for them. I'll make that point because it is something that needs to be decided with your doctor. But so that's typically done to help give the body the ketones as the alternative fuel source. Okay, so that is helpful. So the second type, we're at type 2 now, and that's called atrophic loss. So that's loss of what they call trophic signaling, right? And your brain is electric, right? So it relies on signals, right? It's not just blood and all the different tangles or things up there, right? It's circuitry is very important. So sending and receiving the signal correctly, right? And at the speed that we need it to happen. So what does that really mean? People who have lost hormone support, okay? So women, menopause, this is a big period of time where estrogen's plummeting, where it's going up and down on the way to menopause, right? Progesterone also declines as we age, women age, and testosterone. Some women have low testosterone their whole lives. They don't know why, sex drive's not great, or initiating projects or finishing things. A lot of times testosterone has to do with all that. So those are addressed. That's part of it. And for men too, low testosterone, right? So that's part. And then nutrient deficiencies. B12 is a big one. Usually they try to rule that out in the beginning to see if that's truly a big cause, but there's, so many causes. So B12 is a big one. Hormones I mentioned, and thyroid. Okay, so your thyroid, if you're hypothyroid, sometimes that affects the brain's ability to process the signals correctly and to send those signals. So those are the three things that constitute what trophic loss is. Okay. Third type, very common, toxins. Big. We're all exposed to toxins, right? But when your cup overflows, that's a problem. And if you're not good at detoxifying, okay, we need to do something about that. So mold, huge issue, guys, everywhere, by the way, not just in the Southeast, but and you don't have to see it. It can be in the dust. So very, very important. This is one thing we look for. We make sure that you don't have it, or if you do have it, how to get it out of your system safely and check your home. Fourth reason is vascular issues.
Before you get to the fourth reason, definitely curious about that one.
Heavy metals.
Heavy metals, there we go.
Yeah.
We had a episode about mold and toxicity as well. Then if you want to learn more about that topic, make sure that you go back and listen to that episode, because it was a really good episode. We talk a lot about mold, lot about the
Oh,
symptoms. They're
mhm.
very, very important and affects our health a lot.
Everybody. Yeah, everybody. Like
Yeah.
most people, it's crazy. And then again, you could be living with someone who never gets affected at all, right? You'd be in the same house, the same thing, nothing, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm sluggish. I'm, strange pains, and who knows? I mean, it is very, very. It's a fascinating field, and it's something we really paying attention to.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. And then the heavy metals, like I was saying, mercury's always been an issue. Arsenic in seafood, the list goes on. Even exposure to chemicals in the home, the products you're using can affect us as well. So very, very crucial. So it's an environmental disease, right? Really, there's so many environmental things that kind of contribute. Fourth type, vascular issues, right? Blood flow makes sense. You need blood flow to the brain, right?
Need
Yeah,
flow to the brain. Yes, of course.
you need it to flow. So if there's issues with your heart, a lot of times that translates into issues in the brain. And we have to be careful. We don't want to, sacrifice the brain for the heart or the heart for the brain. So there has to be this careful balance between, how you treat, with statins. Sometimes a cardiologist want to use statins, and it's like, well, what's the stance on that? Well, if it's helping with the blood flow, then usually on the ReCODE protocol, and Dr. Bredesen's opinion is it might be a good idea to keep it going. But if you've corrected your blood cholesterol and everything looks good, sometimes they do decide to take people off statins, and they make that decision with their physician. Important to do that though, because you can't, like I said, you can't put one at risk for the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's important too. And exercise, right? It's going to help support that blood flow. So, and then the last one is type 5, which is head trauma, right? If you've fallen, if you've had accidents, car accidents, things like that. This is something that even if it happened many years ago, even with Muhammad Ali, right? He had several, I think he had Parkinson's, but he was head trauma, right? All the time. I mean, these are prize fighters, but you don't have to be a prize fighter to have an issue, a traumatic brain injury, even if, so that's important to think.
Wow, that's really cool. And what I'm really hearing is, again, going back to the cause, that there are so many possibilities, and it's hard to just say, okay, everybody's gonna do A, B, C. Then even when I personally, when I heard the protocol, for the word protocol for me is always a little bit of a trigger, because protocol comes from that place of like, okay, everybody's gonna do A, B, and C, and D, and
no, this is customized.
And I love when I actually understood more about the ReCODE protocol, because even though it is a protocol,
sure,
it is a much vast, and there is so many complexities and details and variety of how you apply the protocol and how you apply.
Absolutely. It is customized, very much so. Yes, and it has to be, like you said, we're bio individuals. And protocol does make people think it's you do this, 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 and this, and it's like, well, no, this person may not be able to, or it doesn't make sense for that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned as well, just kind of repeating that for the listeners, it's done together with your doctor. If this is not good for your health, if this is going to help the decline for the cognition, but it's going to affect someone else, we got to find a middle way where the whole body.
Right. Especially with the heart and the brain. I feel like that's the biggest one. Those two are very much intertwined, where you can't, like I said, you can't sacrifice one for the other. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And we do find the happy medium. So I think it's great. We are seeing people who reduce their blood cholesterol, reduce their blood sugars, reduce inflammation. I mean, we're working on these things, these different little silos, but together is where the magic happens. I think it's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. This is like, a buckshot, get it all, work on those contributing problems, and then the brain can actually begin to repair and heal itself and function normally. So.
Absolutely. And I actually had the pleasure to go watch the documentary, the new documentary that's just being released, Memories for Life. And Robyn did a fantastic job of hosting the pre-screen. It was amazing. Then if people wanted to watch the documentary, Robyn, where can they find that now? Because I know it's just being released recently.
Just released, yes, 2 days ago on Apple TV, and it's like $1.99, real cheap to rent that, and you can, I think, buy it also. I believe on the 21st of November, We're 2023, right? So it's November 21st. You'll be able to see it on Prime Video. And you can also, I believe you can get it at memoriesforlifefilm.com. So that's another location. Yes.
Fantastic. And if you're listening there later in the year, that may not be 2 days ago anymore.
Right.
Depending how
November 15th, it's out. It's available. Yeah, Apple
it
TV.
is available on Apple TV. It will be available on Amazon Prime, and is also available
It'll be others. I think there'll be some
websites and hopefully more locations, because it's such
it will.
documentary as well.
It
And
will.
we can put the information also on our show notes for the website, and if people wanted to kind of check that out as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of linking there as we transition in. Okay, we talk about the symptoms, we talk about the protocol. Let's share with the listeners, like if you could share some tips, like some things that you like, you know what, based what I saw so far, based what I saw, the things that work. Can you share with the listeners some solutions that people can start applying today?
Sure. Absolutely. So, the whole protocol is really designed around what Dr. Bresson calls the Bredesen 7, which is, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, brain stimulation, detoxification. What else do I have here? I think I meant supplements. That's a big one. Think I got everything there. And so to me, what I would want to say to people is you can't just, look at all those 7 items and go, okay, I'm going to do all of it, and exactly how to execute it. But really, what can you do now? Eliminate sugar. Okay. Nutrition is 101. We're talking the foundation of your house, right? It's your house. We all have a house that we live in, and meaning our bodies, right? And our minds, and taking care of what you're ingesting every day, right? Being mindful, getting more greens, and really reducing those sugars and increasing healthy fats, right? So that's avocado oil. And you got to be mindful about cholesterol. Okay. Anybody's got high cholesterol, we got to watch for that. So maybe not so much if you're, high cholesterol person, but you can still have some, the healthier nuts like pecans and, almonds are okay. They're maybe not as high in fat, but getting in the healthy fats, right? Avocado oil is great to cook with, and high smoke point, so on. You can drizzle a very high extra virgin olive oil, high in polyphenols onto cold, right? Onto salads, things like that. So get your healthy fats, eliminate your sugars, things like that. Move more, right? Want people to just move more. This is really crucial. Even if you're somebody like Anna and I, who, we work at home a lot or in our home offices, to stand up and do something, go for a quick walk, jump in place, do something to get some movement. The other thing I want to mention too is to just have a healthy mindset about, your brain health. I think it's been pretty negative up until now. What's been pushed toward, us and what we knew was available, right? So now this excitement of seeing what is possible, and having the awareness, right? Anna, the body awareness, pay attention, watch yourself, watch others that you love and care about, your friends, whomever, and find, like I said earlier, the gentlest way to convey that, hey, something doesn't seem quite right, and guess what? There's something you can do about it, right? You can leave it at that, make it simple. But having awareness makes a difference, even when you eat your food. Is that food good for me? And Anna, you're an expert at this, helping people to understand what is good for me. Like my dog here, he's wanting his biscuits, even though, maybe too many biscuits may not be good for him, right?
Exactly.
Need tons of biscuits. Yeah. So right. So that's important. And I think just making the conscious decision, Anna, every day to expect good things, right? Instead of, the worry and the fear and looking, there's a lot of difficult news right now, right? Everywhere in the world. And we have to, I think, try to rise above a little bit and bring some peace and joy back into the energy, right, that we're living in. And just kind of expect things to work out somehow. You don't have to know how or when, right? If you're somebody who prays, just do what you have to do to bring about that positive feeling, and whatever makes you feel good, do more of it.
I love that. I love it. Those are a lot of tips there. Make sure you guys took all those notes because they were so good.
Alaska approved.
Alaska definitely approve. And just for you guys to kind of summarize some of those tips there, then Robyn mentioned about the food, and of course the food will be depending on your specific needs, but in general, some of the tips that she mentioned there, it will work for the majority of the population. Then make sure you take notes on that. And then we talk about mindset. Mindset is so, so, so important because it's the foundation of everything. If we start to looking at things and we just see problems, we only see things that's not working, and we only see things that we're getting worse, nothing is helping. And I see a major difference with the patients that I work with. When the patient walking on the office and they can be the exactly same level of pain, and the patient that comes with a negative attitude and a negative mindset, oh, I never worked before, oh, nothing's going to do for me, nothing's going to help. When the person comes with that kind of mindset versus another person with the same exactly symptoms, same exact level of pain, it's going to be the person with the positive mindset is going to heal so much faster. It's incredible. Yes. And there are research to back that up. Like I read a research when I was in my university 16 years ago. So when I was going to PT, physical therapist school, I read a research about, they did a comparison with a population that had burn in a hospital. And burn is a very difficult thing to heal, depending on the severity. And they did it two groups. One group was like the more negative mindset, and one group was the more positive mindset. And the speed of healing from that population was night and day.
Unbelievable.
And I remember listening to that research and hearing about it from one of my professors, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like how much it can help.
We're learning so much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that every single day in my office. It is such a difference on the speed of healing when we approach things from possibilities, choice. It's we're gonna make happen, we're going to find solutions. It's very different way of looking at it. And that's a really, really important point there. And the other point that you make there that I think it's super important, and I if you work with me before, if you talk to me before, you know the awareness is always the first step. And I repeat that over and over and over because it is so important. And I feel like, especially with cognitive decline, when we know ourselves, it's so much easier to start even recognizing those problems so much sooner, so much faster. And the faster we can recognize that, the faster we can heal.
And it's important for me to bring up at this point, really, as a good lead into what I was going to say, that symptoms actually begin, from Dr. Bryson's research, as far back as 20 years before diagnosis. Okay, so the recommendation is anybody who's 45 years old and over, but we're seeing a lot more in younger ages. So if somebody's 35, 40 years old and something's not right, you need to look out and see. It could be MS, it could be, we don't know. There could be a lot of things that it's not Alzheimer's, but early onset is really showing up in some crazy young ages now. So we really need to have an open mind about how soon do we start addressing this. And yeah, it's really important. And that's called a cognoscopy. That's what Dr. Bryson coined it as, like, yeah, everybody gets their colonoscopy, but have you had a cognoscopy?
Oh, I love that. I love
that.
Yeah. Is that we all should make sure we check your brain.
Right. We're not doing it until it's like too late, right? That's a sad thing. So we're changing that.
Good. That's excellent. And if people can just look for, talk to their doctors and ask, find professionals like you as well. And I think one thing that's really important to address, based on what I learned from the documentary, based on what I learned knowing you, and from all the conversation we had today, it's also the complexity of this. And I think it's so important for us to recognize, yes, it is possible. Yes, there are simple things that we can do it. And we talk about some of the simple things we can do already, like movement, diet, mindset, meditation is a big one for that as well.
Yes,
Keeping
yes,
the
yes. We
nervous
didn't get to that.
system, right? Keep the nervous system calm. Oh my gosh, nervous system, brain is one or the same. Then
Huge.
the
Yes.
more we work with the nervous system, the more we can help the brain to work better.
And there's research for that too.
Absolutely.
Proves it before and after. Absolutely. The brain is functioning better. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of simple things that we can start today. And there are a lot of details.
Yes.
Working with someone like Robyn makes your life so much easier because she's going to help you to navigate to the complexity of this, the overwhelming of this. I feel like even when I'm hearing you say, oh my gosh, there's 7 days, 6 of that, it's like, how can we memorize? There's so much information, right? And it's like that is the benefit of working with someone like you, someone that's going to guide you, going to navigate. Okay, this is important, this is not. What is the priority when you're looking at the pillars and the types? One of the things I love about the protocol, it's giving that priority. Okay, this is the higher risk.
Yes.
Let's focus on that first.
Yeah. And each person is different. Yeah.
It's different, right? And for some people, meditation be the best technique. For some other people, the exercise be the best technique. For some other people, those things are not going to work at all. They need to go back to check the mold and the toxin and the heavy metal and do more of the inside out work. Then it's a different solution for each person. Then I think it's really important to highlight that.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, the combinations of those all affect something else. So, you know, in a good way, meaning, you know, in a positive manner. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the only time exercise might be a problem for someone is if, you know, there's a physical reason. You as a physical therapist know that they just can't do it. So it's like, okay, well what do we do instead? And in some cases, a supplement that helps to stimulate what's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, might be prescribed by the doctor because they can't get it to be produced just from exercise because they're not able to. They've got some issues. They can't exercise, but yes, we find a way. We find a way.
Exactly. That's the beauty, right? It's like, that's the beauty of finding, when we know the cause, we can figure it out, the solution. That's the hope in there.
Yes.
That's the hope in there. Then Robyn, share with us, do you have any gift that you would like to share with our listeners?
I do. So I do a 1-hour consult. And what that means is we're going to go through your health history. I'm going to tell you more about the protocol. We're going to talk about if it's a fit for you, you know, what can we do and how does it work? Or how do the doctors work? Learn more about Apollo and so on, which is where the protocol kind of lives. And normally, you know, that's got a price point to it, but we have a discount code for you, right? And that's, I use Anna's little initials there. So BHWA23. Be healthy with Anna. So just BHWA23. And that would be found when you go to End Cognitive Decline. And then when you're there on my website, on the far right corner, it says Getting Started. So right there, you can schedule with me in person. I have an office space here in Charlotte, North Carolina. If not, around the country. So, you know, we can do Zoom like this. No problem. And we can schedule either way. So that'll get you a nice discount. So be sure to use that code and you'll see it in the show notes again.
Fantastic. And we're going to have all the links and all the resources on the show notes. Then make sure that you take a look at that. You're going to find that on www.behealthwithanna/podcast. That should be easy to find it. And we're going to have that information there for you. We're going to type the code for you. And Robyn, what would be the best way for the listeners to contact you?
Probably through my website. Yeah. It's again, endcognitivedecline.com. My company name is called the Alzheimer's Alternative. I don't know if we mentioned that at all earlier, but it's different than the actual website. So endcognitivedecline.com. You can learn about my story a little bit more with my mom there as well, who's part of the team. Anna is on my website there. So yeah, you should be able to go right there. You can send me a message or you can just schedule and, we can really start to dig in.
Fantastic. And if you are having any symptoms and you're concerned about your health, or if you know a loved one that needs help, I would highly recommend you to make sure that you contact Robyn, because she is amazing at what she does. She knows a lot. You probably noticed that. We learned so much today, and we learned about the symptoms, we learned about the solutions, and we learned some tips there as part of the things that you can start doing today. I'm curious from you guys that are listening today, what is one thing that you can start changing today?
Yes.
Robyn mentioned about the sugar, or exercising more, or meditating more, regulating your nervous system. We could talk about many different other things we can start doing, changing your mindset, working on body awareness, and many options there for you guys. What is one thing that you can start doing today? Then make sure that you share that with us on the comments.
Yes.
And Robyn, thank you so much for joining us today and share all the wisdom and all the tips. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
All right, and thank you so much for the listeners to today's episode. If you enjoy it, make sure you subscribe to our channel, leave us a review, and share our podcast with anyone that you know needs to improve their health. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can get notified whenever we upload a new video. And if you are ready to claim your life and heal from chronic pain, join Be Health Academy. Be Health Academy is a science-based program that offers accountability, pain science education, stress management techniques, ways to shift your mindset, increase body awareness, and techniques to release trauma from the body, and so much more. With the right resources, you have the ability to heal yourself, and you don't have to do it alone. Let me show you the way. Join the Health Academy. And that's it for today. Keep it up with the good work, and I will talk to you later. And until then, be healthy.